Hello and welcome to another ARC review video. So today we will be discussing The Bitter Crown of the Thistle by Alisha Galvan. And I won't be doing a full review of it because it's published on the 22nd of September this year. So this is an ARC review, 2/3 of the book I will hopefully try not and even mention, never mind delve into. So I'm going to dance around it and hopefully not spoil anything for you. So here's the blurb for the book. Raymond is a guy who's never found his place in life. Always the outcast, he's watched others live what he's missed. Then he decides to take an unorthodox chance by abducting Caroline Stolar, the most beautiful woman he's ever seen, convinced that he can get her to witness a side of himself otherwise overlooked. A side easy to love. Men have been dying. Some women have secrets. Like maybe they're serial killers. Nathan Stolar finds himself facing the mystery of his wife's disappearance. Caroline waits for her chance, doing everything she can, hiding who she really is. Bitter Crown of the Thistle is a twisting story about obsession, about the scars left by pain, and the people we become as an answer to our lives. And that blurb already had me clicking away that I wanted to read and review this book. But there's a but at the beginning. Some books have, like a few trigger warnings, and most of them can be completely ignored. This one has trigger warnings, and if you ignore them on your own head, be it. So I'll read the trigger warnings out for you because don't take these lightly. So content warnings include stalking, kidnapping, graphic torture, numerous graphic murders, sodomy, dismemberment, non-consensual, animal death, mentions of paedophile crimes, isolation, neglect, physical abuse, childhood trauma including parental neglect, degrading a child, and non-consensual flashbacks. If it has a trigger warning, it's probably in this book. You have been warned. And let me tell you, those trigger warnings are apt. If you don't like any of that content, do not read this book. But if you are a little bit intrigued, stay with me. So the story outline is our main female character, Caroline Stolar. She's a successful lawyer with a very happy, idyllic life, a really great marriage. Nathan Stolar, that she's married to, is just perfect in every way. He's a fireman, he's a provider, he supports her, and they have a very loving... They're in love, and their marriage hasn't all been, like rainbows and ponies. They have had some rocky moments, but they have got over them, and together they're really like a power couple, which is the complete opposite of our main male character. I'm going to call him a main male character rather than Nathan, because this guy. So our main male character is a guy called Raymond, and he is the creepy stalker type. If you're a fan of true crime, this is the guy that is always the serial killer. Is just ugh. I'll read an excerpt from his point of view, because whenever it was his point of view, ugh. The teenagers gathered around their peers, laughing, the moment before shaken free. He envied their resiliency and saw himself bashing Ryan's teeth in with his meaty fist, beating on him until the young man gurgled blood, until that imaged face was ugly from pulp and bruises, disfigured as his soul. Then focus on some of the others. Like the blonde, an attractive young woman who would have doors of all types held open for her because of her sex, because her eyes were reflective and her chest heaved a lurid suggestion. She and the younger one, the one with the brown hair which fell long, who had barely laughed and had a face that promised terrible beauty in the years to come. He'd wondered if she'd even started her period yet. Surely the older one had. He'd known Lisa's period, had tracked it, and had guessed before she'd left that she might be pregnant and not yet married. Still, he wouldn't mind seeing fear in those girls' eyes, watch them reassess their value, as he'd seen plenty of women do when he worked at the prison. There's a part early on where Raymond is reminiscing fondly about a time when he's stalking a woman called Lisa, and he casually remembers that he went through trash cans and got out used tampons so he would be able to track her menstrual cycle. Yikes. And now he's switched to stalking Caroline. He's been stalking Caroline for a year. A full year. But there is a problem to this, apart from the obvious obsession, stalking, the whole thing. And the problem is that Caroline isn't the meek and happy person full of sunshine and rainbows that she is in her marriage or when she's with her husband. When he's working nights and she's left to her own devices, she has an extremely dark, traumatic past and combats this, and she goes deep within herself and has a character that can deal with all this dark, traumatic stuff, and she calls her character Amber White. And this whole traumatic thing, this whole sort of inner personality, is further exacerbated when Raymond abducts Caroline in broad daylight and keeps her prisoner, so that he can keep her prisoner and convince Caroline that they are two peas in a pod and he is more worthy of her love than Nathan is. And he believes that by keeping her prisoner, Caroline will fall in love with him instead, because he is better for her. Now, I can't go further into the story of everything that happens because I'm very conscious of that. I don't want to spoil anything. It isn't even out yet, but I would recommend it. Now, this book is presented really, really well. It's got viewpoints from all the central characters and some of the side characters too, which I really, really like, being able to, know what's going on in a certain area while others are suffering what they're suffering. And the pacing is just perfect, right up until the last few chapters. Now, as I've reiterated, take note of the trigger warnings, because this book is graphic. Because this book dives right into the highly graphic situations that these characters find themselves in. What they're feeling, what they're going through, what's happening around them, everything. And more than once I found myself going, ew, or like, ugh, just no. And this mainly is around the points with Caroline and Raymond, obviously. But there are some near the end, some side characters that I'm like, no, don't, just stop it. And when you're reading the points of view from Raymond, and it is a lot, there's a lot from his point of view, obviously, because he's the main character. It's written so well that you feel dirty reading his points of view. Like, you just need to, like, you're covered in slime. Like, the slime's just oozing off the pages, and you feel like you need a wash. Which is testament to damn good story writing. And for this to be the author's first novel, just well done. Wow. Because this doesn't read like a first novel. This reads like, like the 10th or the 20th. Like a veteran writer. I mean, she might be for all I know, but according to Goodreads, this is the first one. Now, I do like to include a criticism in my reviews, but as I said, the pacing through this book is perfect, right up until the end. It's slow, it's detailed, it grabs you, and it just soaks you in poison. But that pacing, as I said, seems to fall off at the last hurdle. We've spent the majority of this book in close-up detail of what torture Caroline is going through. Up close, personal, detailed. And yet at the end, for me, events around the last couple of chapters end up being a bit too fast for me. And if anything, the events at the end of the book, I wanted them to be slower, more detailed. I'm completely depraved by this point. I want them slow, I want them detailed, and I want the satisfaction. And I don't seem to get it. But that's just my opinion. And not only that, but the whole ending confused the hell out of me. I don't know whether I was too into it to see what was going on, or to see that I was missing something, or that I was thinking too literal, but I just didn't get it. Not that it wasn't satisfying, it didn't gel for me. That is the only criticism I can make. So for me, I really, really enjoyed this book. Once I'd started it, I found it really, really hard to put it down. I was reading it on trains, in restaurants. I just couldn't put the damn thing down. And when it comes out on the 22nd of September, I highly recommend, if you can get past the trigger warnings, to read this book because it is just amazing. And if you can get past the trigger warnings, I'd highly recommend being imprisoned by this book, because you might just not make it out alive, and you might not want to. So for me, this book gets 4.5 stars because I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed reading it. There were times when I cringed, and there were times from like Raymond's point of view where I just wanted to be like, you sick fuck. And it's a damn good story. But with all the graphic torture, the everything else that's in it, I really, really liked it. So if this sounds like something that you'd like, it's another one to be added to the to be read pile. So if you like this video, please leave me a like, leave me a comment, leave me a subscribe, because I like all those things. And as always, keep reading.